Welcome once again to another episode of the Winner Circle. I am one of your hosts, Eugene Plowden, and with me, as always, my podcast partner, Chris Walker, Isaiah Gathens. What's up, fellas?
What's
What's
up?
up?
What's up?
What's
If
up,
this your
guys?
if this your first time with us, I want you to know we are members of the Martial Arts Center Network. On Mondays, you have us with the Winner Circle with Eugene, Chris, Isaiah, and Angel. Tuesdays, you got the Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. Wednesdays, you got the Traditional Way with Brett Shumway. Thursdays, it's Fists, Kicks, and Flicks with Gene, Joe, and Angel. For more information, you can check us out on all of our social media platforms. Just look for the Martial Arts Center Network on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon. Fellas, it's showtime. What's going on, guys?
Just trying to have a better, a better stream, a better podcast this week, and not get us banned. We got the most controversial show now on the Martial Arts Internet Network. I got us banned last week for footage, so you want to watch our show because we getting banned. That's how bad we are now.
That's how it is, man. That's how we roll.
How's y'all week been?
Oh, we had a good week. Definitely busy, working and at the school and all that. But it was a good week.
All right, Zeke, how you been, man?
Man, it's been good, man. Super busy, man, with the grand opening coming up for location in Clinton Township, man. Just super busy with that and trying to work some things out here in Vegas too, man. So I've been super busy, but busy is a good thing. That means that you're blessed.
Man, you know what, Isaiah, I didn't even know if you were back in Vegas because you said something that you were traveling just the other day, right? Was that
Yeah.
yesterday? Did you
It
come
was a
back
couple
out here?
days ago.
You came back out here to Detroit?
I was out there like a week and a half ago, and then I'll be back out there again probably at the end of this week.
Man, just back and forth, man.
Yeah.
But you're a busy guy, man. I don't know. Chris know this. Chris Isaiah is also an electrician, also.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
on top of training people and on top of running schools, he's also an electrician, man. So this brother is really busy.
In there running wiring, connecting it all up, getting it all done, man. I get it.
And he
Hey
a
man.
granddaddy. And he a granddaddy. Like, don't let
Yep.
that baby face fool you, man. He a granddaddy too.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I'd have never guessed. Never guessed that.
I bought the
Man,
big time too. My daughter's due any day now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I did not know
Thank
that
you.
congratulations.
either.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it. So like I said, Chris, you missed you were real busy and missed our first show.
Yes, sir.
But you're here
Unfortunately.
now. So let's give the
Yes, sir.
listeners your background in sport, combat, jujitsu. Isaiah, Chris is a lot like you, man. Like y'all brothers, y'all have done it all. Y'all done everything, So go ahead, Chris.
I started with my instructor at like 3 years old in the like in the daycare. He came in and did a karate class, and then I kind of stuck with it and him ever since. He also used to work as a kickboxing trainer. My
Mm,
instructor is Mike Smith from Florida. He used to work as a kickboxing trainer with like Don Wilson and that
mm,
whole group out of there. So we had a guy Ernest Simmons who actually fought Ernesto Hoost back in the 80s, or once here in America, American kickboxing above waist, and then once over there in Holland in leg kicks in Thai style or K1 style. They went 1-1. But so my instructor has been around that for a long time. So I eventually transitioned into kickboxing, and I had my first kickboxing fight at like 16. But in
mm,
my karate system, we ran a camp from Yoshikai Karate. We had a camp, and we always had people who did different things. And one of the guys was a Gracie black belt in jiu-jitsu. And so that's like piqued my interest in 2000, maybe 99. The first time I had ever gotten to do anything. I was wrestling in high school and stuff. So I went in there and he was like, "Oh, has anybody got any experience?" And then so I went and grappled with him, and he triangled me, and I was like, that was terribly and one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Can I learn? And then so like that sparked that, and then I kind of started doing jujitsu on and off since like I've been doing that since like '01. But there's like a lot of gaps from my training with different instructors and moving around and doing that stuff. So hence why my belt is where it is. Um, and then I fell in love with MMA first, actually, and I had the worst advice ever. Somebody said, "Oh, if you're doing MMA, don't waste your time doing the gi." And as a young, not bright and not technical individual who didn't have somebody else in my corner telling me different, I focused on that. I had a catch wrestler background with a buddy. And then I did a lot of MMA, and then I got injured with my knee. And then I kind of slowly transitioned out of MMA and then straight to gi. Like, and then so like I poured everything into the gi over the last 7-8 years and worked my way up to a decent brown belt at this point. And so that's kind of my little run there. I fought MMA, I fought kickboxing and all that stuff as well. But like that's kind of the quick pathway there.
Chris, let me ask you.
I'm sorry.
One real quick question. Is there anything in martial arts that you have not done? Because I didn't know, like I thought you were just a fighter. Like I've been away from the whole sport karate. So I didn't know that you also was a kata guy. You were a weapons guy also.
Nice.
Forms fighting weapons, CMX traditional. Yeah. Oh, I competed in almost everything. The two things I've actually not competed at in a tournament were self-defense. I've never done a self-defense division, and I've never done a breaking division in a tournament. Okay. I've done demo team, and I've done demo team, and I've done sync forms. So I've kind of run the whole gambit at the sport karate tournaments. I've done sport jiu-jitsu. When they did that, the Point MMA, when they brought that to the US Open one year. I competed 1 year at the US Open. I was actually in grands for traditional forms. I was one of the last three. It came down to me, Hamed, and Ross in the point fighting finals, and I lost to Hamed. I was over in Naga, and I got second in the intermediate division in Naga, and then I won the Point MMA division all in the same weekend. That was just Friday and Saturday. So like I've done a lot of cool stuff, a lot of losses, some wins. We've done a lot of fun things. Combat sports wise, like I've never done sambo. I've never gone and done like a stick or a knife competition. I've trained in stick and knife before, and judo. Those are kind of the big things that I would like. Judo is actually on my list that I'm getting ready to go work with a guy and start learning how to be traditionally trained in some judo.
Okay.
So that's like going to be my next quest here. But yeah, those are kind of the big things that like I've never really done. I mean, I wrestled. I've done a bunch.
Okay, Isaiah, I'm sorry I jumped in front of you, man. What was your question?
I was just going to piggyback off of what Chris said regarding doing MMA and training in gi. I remember I've trained with Royler Gracie a few times, and I remember one of the times I asked him, I said, when you're getting ready for a fight, I think this was back when he was still either competing in MMA or just getting ready to retire and phase out of it. I said, what do you do any different, like to train in preparation for MMA? Like, how long do you train with the gi on, or when do you take it off to get ready? And we kind of laughed at his response because he was just like, the week of the fight, I just take the gi top off, and just keep going, and it was a very simplistic answer that he gave, but it just reminds us how important it is to implement your gi training in there from a technical standpoint, because I think too many people, they rely on and depend on this scrambling or somebody else having poor technique and not giving them enough credit for being as technical or more technical than you are. So you assume that will poorly go for a submission or from a control point, and you'll be able to escape. And that's the reason why I think they discredit the gi, which is what makes it so important. And to hear a legend like Royler say something like that just kind of reinforced it. And I just wanted to piggyback off what Chris was saying and articulating a little while ago.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And like now, knowing what I know now, I wish I would have trained more gi in that, because just simple concepts that you get just by mastering when you get underneath, like underhooks. An underhook and no gi is a very, very powerful and controlling thing, but an underhook with a gi and a grip, that's a completely different animal. And if you can fight one, you can darn sure fight the other one. You know what I mean? And like understanding the that control factor, and just in general, like when like, and when you don't know, you wish you had somebody to show you
right.
in that. Right. But yeah, 100%.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Let's get into this week's topics. Number one, I have up here, guys. As a white belt, I want to know more about the jiu-jitsu belt system. Okay, because typically And there are five belts: white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and then black belts. Right now, it seems like the people who started in that first wave, that in the early to mid 90s, after UFC 1 and 2, like so around 94, 95, a lot of those guys seem like they got their black belts 5 or 6 years later. A lot of them out here, they say they got their black belts in 2000, 2001, 2002, around that time. Now I hear, for the most part, people say that it's going to be about at least 10 years before you get your black belts. So why is it that big of a disparity now? Is it because there's so many people in jiu-jitsu now compared to it was back then, where you need to train a little bit harder, a little bit longer to be as good as these other guys? Is that what the deal is? What's happening?
To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you. Well, I'm under Brazilians. They tell you when they think you're ready. And they're really, in my experience, there's really not a rhyme or reason. At blue belt, to get your blue belt from white to blue belt, there's in our group, there's a loose curriculum. You kind of have to know these things from guard. You have to know all your positions. You kind of have to know some sweeps, some subs, how to transition from position to position. You get stripes accordingly, and there's kind of a loose curriculum in that. But after that, I mean, in our group, there was really no real rhyme or reason. It's once you're doing things as you move through the way that your instructor wants you to move and make the corrections that they're looking for you to make. Sometimes it's skill and sometimes it's your journey. Competitors get a little bit of a fast track based upon their accomplishments and accolades and things like that. But I couldn't tell you, I've been doing jiu-jitsu a real long time, and like I said, I'm still a brown belt. So it is what it is, and I will move forward when my instructor lets me know I'm ready. Zeke, you've made that transition. You're up on that level. In your experience, where is that?
Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to cover all bases here. I'm gonna try to get the benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna just I'm gonna keep the buck, at the same time. This is an excellent question, and one of the things that we have to understand, like Gene pointed out, is the fact that there's so many people that's doing it now. So with that said, you have to look at the jiu-jitsu back then and who it was being, who was competing with it and who they were competing against. So back then, because not a lot of people really knew it or were very technically sound or savvy, you probably can dominate people relatively easier because of the fact that you didn't have as many wrestlers that's involved that has now learned jiu-jitsu and is mastering it. And there wasn't as many Americans that were as knowledgeable about it back then to be very competitive. So with that said, now that there's more people that's participating in it, there's more eyes on it, there's more participants, more competitors, then it's a lot more technical than it used to be, which means that you need more time to be able to actually train and drill to be able to go up against this new batch or new wave of people who are participating in it. So again, you remember the early UFCs, which you spoke about and you highlighted, and you had, guys in the octagon with one boxing glove on and one off getting tapped out from a grapevine and things like that. So I mean, back then you can look like a stud back then, and you really would be the equivalent of maybe like a blue or purple belt because you're just whooping on everybody. But after people actually
start, they don't know they're no belt. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So after people started to understand it, it's like, okay, well, we need more time to prepare. This is one school of thought, and this is given the benefit of the doubt. Now,
I will say I like how you did that, because that was real smooth. Because I'm like, that's a different way to think about it, sir.
That might not
sit well. Gonna keep it a buck real quick,
but I'm gonna keep it a buck. Me and Chris been around for a very long time. And he said there was no real rhyme or reason. Well, to some extent, there is. A lot of the Brazilians, when they came over here, they realized that even though jiu-jitsu was almost a cultural thing or like a way of life, kind of like in Thailand, how Thai boxing is, when they came to the States and saw how it can be monetized, something that they've done for a very long time and probably didn't receive as much credit accolades or maybe as much financial stability as they could in the States. They made it an opportunity when it became popular and exploded to make sure that they were able to monetize off of it. And to do that, you have to make sure that you keep people involved for a very long time. And when you start finding out that people will be involved for indiscriminate, you know what I mean? You just like amount of time, just with the indiscriminate curriculum, where you're just like, oh, well, you're ready for a blue belt today, you're not. And people will continue to stay to seek approval, to pay for these seminars, to be able to pay to come to these different camps and things like that. You're going to monetize and keep people around and involved as long as you can, because at the end of the day, it is what is a business, you know? So yeah, to Chris's point, a lot of times there was no rhyme or reason. If you competed, you definitely were put above everybody else. And not a lot of other activities, you know, martial art related, is that really necessarily a common denominator or a factor. You know, you competing, or how many grand champions you won, or how many tournaments. I mean, it's appreciated. You know, it definitely will help you be able to be looked upon in a different light, because chances are if you're competing regularly, you're training probably a little bit harder because you're actually using what it is that you're learning. So I get it. But I mean, if you were just a person that was in the dojo, the gym that was training, you were overlooked oftentimes. And like he said, there wasn't really a curriculum in place. Nowadays, it's a little bit better. You know, now that jiu-jitsu is now widespread, there's not just the Brazilians that are in charge of it and that are running it. And there's a lot of American black belts and people that have schools that have professional curriculums in play. They realize that we have to get the structure together, and then we need to be a little bit better. So now it's a lot better than it used to be. But in that gray area that you're talking about, around that time, those early 2000s, mid 2000s, it was just whomever the instructor, the professor wanted to move forward. And the longer they can keep you around, the better financially it was for them, because they didn't want to relinquish control like the Koreans and the Japanese did with their martial art systems. So the benefit of the doubt is saying more people are doing martial art, jiu-jitsu now. So it is a lot more technical, which means you need more time to train. But then by the same token, honestly, it would just, hey, look, this guy's ready, this guy's not. I like this guy, I don't like this guy. This guy competes, this guy doesn't. And it was just really, really just a random cycle of promotions, you know, and events that led to people either moving forward or not moving forward.
Okay, right, because like you said, to the advancing curriculum and techniques. I mean, look at how many darn guards there are, open guards there are now. You know what I mean? So like, and the different play-ons and different all that, and it's like, I mean, I've been doing jiu-jitsu a long time, and some of that stuff, I'm just like, I can have it.
And we talked about this the other week. Exactly. Right, this stuff is being implemented and added to some extent, just to continue to, I don't want to say keep the relevance, because I don't think the relevance of jiu-jitsu is ever going to go away. I mean, it's really imprinted itself in the martial art world.
The core principles of jiu-jitsu will be there, but to your point, I think it's like adding icing onto the cake and just kind of over layering it and adding to where it's like, oh, well, you know, we started with spider, now we can go to tarantula, now we can go into octopus, now we can move, and you know, you got all the different little sub things to now. Well, now you got to know at least two of these before you can move into the next stripe or to whatever, you know. But yeah, that was what I was more going with that.
That never happens in karate. They never make a new sidekick or roundhouse kick that you have to learn, and it just doesn't just come up out of anywhere. It doesn't happen that way.
If anything, I see them stripping that, losing a form, taking away one or two forms, moving into that rotating curriculum in that side of it. So like to your point, like it's weird how that uneven balance is working. Jiu-jitsu gets to add more and keep you there longer, where karate, they're like, nah, I need you to streamline this because it's too long and it's too hard. And I guess it may be to who it's geared towards.
That's going to lead into my next question. Do you guys still teach traditional self-defense, or did you swap it out for jiu-jitsu? Because I'm gonna tell you guys, I did. Like, our normal one steps that my uncle taught me, like I'm not doing that no more. I'll teach the white belts that, because the white belts aren't, you know, used to somebody, you know, stepping and punching at them, or, you know, blocking, you know, with an inside to outside middle block or a high block and all that stuff. They're not used to that. So I swapped out the I mean, because also we have a bunch of them. We got about 30 something one steps. And I'm like I said before, most of the parents, when they bring their kids to me, they are bringing their kids for two reasons: not to be karate champions or win tournaments. Number one, they're bringing their kids to me for self-defense, right? And the second reason they're gonna bring their kids for me is for self-discipline, right? Those one steps are not practical. Nobody's gonna step and punch at you. You're never gonna do an inside to outside middle block in a real life fight. That's not happening. So I was spending a lot of time with kids who had a hard time remembering what order and which ones they did and which ones they didn't do. And the little kids, the 5, 6, 7-year-olds that we teach that stuff to, I was getting frustrated because for the most part, I'm the main instructor when it comes to karate. I have black belts now in my academy that could help out, but for most of the time that I've been in business, I was the only instructor. So it was hard when you have a 7-year-old, you're trying to teach them one step, and the 12-year-old got it and they're ready to move on, but I can't really move the class forward with that. So I have my kids, my intermediate and advanced kids, they're doing the self-defense jujitsu that I'm learning now. So I've added that into the curriculum. And also I have a jujitsu instructor who comes in on Fridays that strictly teaches the kids jujitsu every Friday. So I'm phasing out my one step stage. But I wanted to know, what did you guys do, especially since you guys are brown and black belts?
Chris?
So and the curriculum that I work through is we run through. We don't do the basic one steps anymore. We learn with our blocking techniques how the blocks work and how and what they're supposed to do. And then in fighting class, we learn how quick the in block in, the out block in, and the sweeps and the parries and all that stuff are. But our defenses are based on common threats: a push, a wrist grab, a lapel grab, a front choke, a back choke, a bear hug, kind of basic, so a straight punch and a haymaker punch, more along those lines, and defending the common threats at this point. Again, like you said, nobody's going to get in a fixed position and step into Oizuki and step, straight lunge punch to the chest, and you're going to throw that outside inside block lift and then the hammer fist. And we're not really going to work that in real life action now. So we've kind of transitioned that into what are the real life techniques that are going to happen to kids, and what are simple and effective ways to prevent and stop those things. And that's kind of where that is. Some of those things are rooted in Kempo based, some of those rooted in jiu-jitsu, because we do a mount and a guard defense. If you get knocked down and they come down and you can get your legs around them, how do you scissor sweep, or how do you upa and get them out from off the mount, and kind of basics. But that's how we've generated our self-defenses.
Okay, that's cool. That makes sense too.
To answer the question directly first, I think that if I can remember correctly, because I've learned so much jiu-jitsu self-defense that it's hard to remember what it is that I actually learned beforehand. I think that we maybe had 3 self-defense moves total that we learned as far as self-defense. Not talking about one steps. I'll talk about that in a second. I think maybe like 3. And what I will say is I'm not going to blame the system, because, obviously as things get passed down to different, people and different instructors over the generations, things get lost. Sometimes people just teach differently. Sometimes people omit things on their own that they don't see to be important to see value with. But one thing I will say that I love about jiu-jitsu is the fact that it doesn't leave a lot up to chance. It doesn't leave a lot of holes. There's not like a lot of, we should be like karate, traditional martial arts. It has a certain arrogance about it, to where it's like, oh, we'll be fine here. We'll be fine. All you have to do is this. Like for years, remember before all 3 of us started doing jiu-jitsu, our instructors told us that the stuff that we were learning in karate could work on the ground effectively. And then we went with somebody and did jiu-jitsu one time, and they smacked us around a little bit, and we was like, like either I've been lied to or I didn't learn those moves that I was supposed to defend. I was supposed to be able to use on the ground, because this ain't gonna work. This ain't working, man. I need something just geared specifically towards that. So the evolution of Brazilian jiu-jitsu through Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I think that they did a really good job of being very technical and like on answering every question. And unlike in traditional martial arts, you were able to ask questions in class and get an answer to it. You know, back in the day when you used to ask questions, oh, you're not at that level yet. You know what I mean? Maybe one day when you get that level, you'll understand it. Jiu-jitsu, they encourage you to ask questions, and then they have an immediate answer for that. So I'm saying all that to say that I've definitely swapped out, again, the 3 moves. I think I still teach. I think I got them from beforehand, but I definitely fully embrace and implement the jiu-jitsu system 100%. And I double down on it and teach it every opportunity I get. I think it's very thorough. And I think most of all, it's modernized. The things from before, the thing with traditional Taekwondo, Tang Sudo, Kempo, thing like that, to keep the tradition, they don't modernize. So what happens is it's almost insulting to them. They're like, this isn't the karate way. This isn't the do way, the way of the do. This isn't the Taekwondo way. And it's like, yeah, but this is effective, and this is what they're out here doing now. Like this happened to me and my homies last week, bro. Like, bro, you know. So it's
my boy got double legged. Like you can get in a horseback stance and do all the hayas you want to, but when you my man picks you up with a high crotch and then turns you on your head, you gotta have some sort of understanding. Again, we do the same thing. We do tackle defense. Yeah. I'm with you 100% on that, and I think that's some of what traditional karate is dying off with. The modern times, the schools that are doing that are keeping the traditional essences, maybe the forms or the way we do the kicks and whatnot, but they've moved into fighting and self-defense more into what's modern. They're saying that's what's
sorry about that, Chris.
Go ahead. I was done.
And to your point about the 1-steps, we do keep the 1-steps, and I'll tell you why. And I thought this was cool. It might have been an accident, I don't know, but we never had choreographed 1-steps. Never, not once. Like how every other school has, where you are, getting the stance, and then for this strike or for this is your first 1-step, where you in the out block and then you throw 2 punches. This is your second one. You do your down block. Third one, you do your up block. We never had that. Never, not once as kids. You got into a ready position, the person stepped back, blocked down the ki, they come at you and punch. The only gimme you got is the first one, the initial one, it was a body punch. But you have to follow up however you naturally would follow up. And the speed and the power of the punch was up to the person that was throwing it. So it wasn't like we were trying to work, like they were trying to punch you and you had to naturally block and defend. And then when you got past that and you understood how to do that one move, step back, block and defend, then the techniques can come from anywhere. So when I teach 1-steps, it's like at the beginning stage, the punch will come to the body. Maybe a punch will come to the bridge of the nose or to the groin, just to make sure you understand how to step back, block, and defend. But there is no choreographed follow-up with 2 techniques, 3 techniques. And when you get to like the advanced level, they're throwing kicks at you. They might butterfly kick, they might side kick you, and you have to catch, follow up with 3 to 5 techniques. So it would seem like chaos. And it wouldn't look great, it wouldn't look pretty, and it wouldn't look clean. But in fight, don't look great, pretty, or clean either. You know what I mean? And it was the realest type of introduction to how an actual fight would start, where a person would actually stand there. They may square, which they may not, and then they come and they throw a punch or kick at you, and you have to defend without thinking. And then at the higher up stages, where you get close to black belt, we don't even get in the stance. We just start from a natural position. The person just throw a punch or kick at you. So we never omitted that or got away from it because we never had it choreographed. So it always seemed to me, I'm not going to say effective, but it was realistic in the respect that it wasn't as rigid and it wasn't as structured and choreographed as the 1-steps that I noticed and saw at a lot of other schools. And I didn't know there was a difference until I started doing mass trainings or training going to other academies. And then I saw it and I'm like, oh, that's how you do 1-steps? I thought everybody did them like us. My instructor was just crazy. Like, just throw a punch at him. You better move. But I'm like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? Like, but again, we don't, it's not a big part of our curriculum. It's a very, very, very tiny part of our curriculum for all the reasons you guys just said, a very small part, but it is something that I do still teach.
So your 1-steps don't look the same ever. You're never doing the same 1-step.
Nope.
Okay. That's fire. I like that.
Nope.
I really do like that.
You damn sure better block. You damn sure better block. Gonna get.
But listen. There is no prescribed motion where the attacker can stop and just kind of let them walk through something. Like that it's always live. And to what we were kind of hinting at or talking about a little bit earlier is one of the things I love about in the jiu-jitsu side of it, and why I think that in the self-defense realm, why it works a little bit better, is because there's always a contact. It's always a trial and error. There's no do it in the air, practice on the pad, hit the focus mid, then go see if it works. It's like, hey, this is the movement and this is the concept of what you have to do. Go over there and see what you can fiddle. Now come back. Now we'll talk about that. Then we'll work some movements to kind of work and combat some of these issues, and then go back and drill it again. And so you have to be attentive and you have to be involved with it. So therefore, I think there's a little bit more safety progression in those self-defense moments.
That's true. Very true.
All right, cool. Let's move on.
Also, what's up, Carmichael Simon? That's the
Yeah,
guy
I saw
right
that.
there.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Carmichael.
Chris,
Yes,
you're
sir.
up next, man. You got the Karate Combat results.
Oh man, did y'all watch the Karate Combat?
No, and this
I know most people only watch the highlights, but and I'm not too far off of it. I watched the last two fights because I had a vested interest in the very last fight.
And Chris,
but,
man, hold on, before you jump into it, and me and you, we started to talk about something before we started the podcast, right? My issue with Karate Combat, I like watching it, but I never know when it's gonna come on. Even though I follow I follow it on Instagram and everything, and it just kind of I never know. I'm never looking forward to it. So like, what's up with the marketing? It's just on. Yeah, unless somebody from the main game, you know, in our group chat says something about it, or I see it on Facebook or something, I never know when it's on. So I will watch it.
You really only see the hard pushes. Bro, listen, I knew about it because I wanted to see Tyrone Spawn come back. Listen, that's one of my favorite dudes. Listen, I've been watching Tyrone for years now. So him fighting Sam Alvey for the title, fam, I couldn't miss that one. I knew when this one was coming up. It was just on Friday. So like
it's like it's just Friday. I know the time. I just sat down the whole time. I ain't working nothing.
Yeah, that's one of the crazy things. You're right, Gene. There's not a lot of pitch and notice and hey guys, coming up in 3 weeks, hey 2 weeks. There's not like a countdown. They don't, even on their pages, they don't do a lot of that, which is a little wild to me. But getting to work with them through their transition of presidency and the transition into some of the rules and all that stuff. It was kind of last minute notices. That's kind of how it went. You know, I would get word that Robbie, they were talking about this date and that date, and then we wouldn't hear anything back. And then I'd call Robbie and he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm trying to work out an opponent, or my opponent just got canceled. And this is 2 months or a month and a half before the fights, like where, you know, and so I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't been involved in any of the backstages and helping out with any of that in a while. So I don't know. It's very sporadic and on letting people know when they're coming out.
Do they have a social media person, somebody that's in charge of that, of putting out? I mean, it doesn't cost money. I mean, it can, but it doesn't have to cost that much just to, you know, post every single day leading up to a fight. They can have some of these fighters on podcasts doing interviews to promote the fights. Like, I never see any of that type of stuff. Like, what's happening?
I found out Friday when I was running the sparring session. You know, one of the fighters asked me at the end of it, was I gonna watch Karate Combat? And I was like, oh, I was like, is it on? Like, and I don't even think that they definitively knew exactly what date or time it came on. They just knew it was coming on at some point this weekend.
Yeah.
They need to work on that. Something like hire the Martial Arts Center Network. We'll do it.
Right. Hey, listen, we used to go to all of them. Trav used to come to a bunch of them when we were in Orlando. I know he came to a bunch of them. He got a couple of press passes to be back there, but like they didn't really do anything beforehand. There was there were Miami ones. They did the one at the mansion. Like they used to do all the ones at Universal Backstage, Universal Studios Orlando at the little backstage studios. So like, I mean, they used to kind of to let you know when they were going. And I think maybe some of that is we don't have as many of our sport karate guys in there as much anymore, or at all in there anymore. So maybe we're not as being as attentive on watching it, unless there's a big name. They got a lot of UFC guys grappling now. They got their pit series with the jiu-jitsu. You know, they've had big names.
That's what it is. What it is that before it needed to be promoted more because of the fact that the sport karate fighters were lesser known people outside of the sport karate realm. But now the reason that they made this integration is because the purpose is to be able to mainstream it, you know, not do necessarily advertising and marketing, but just by bringing people over that have a name that would naturally traffic and, you know, and streamline these people over. So like he said, he already knew that Tyrone Spong was. Think about how many people are just on Tyrone's IG, on all of his social media following. They knew he was fighting, so that was good enough. They're like, we don't have to do anything. We pay him money. He's fighting. He got to bring the people. Sam Alvey, he's from UFC. People know who he is. They're gonna watch for him. So for most individuals, they're like, if we can save our money on advertising and media by just being able to bring over big names. I don't think that also, it's the smartest thing to do from a longevity standpoint. But I think that that's the reason why they're not tripping about it that much right now.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
He's also in Dubai. And they've done a few now in Dubai. They're backed by cryptocurrencies. So there's maybe not necessarily, I would think there's not necessarily the big push because of what they're also, how else they're being funded sponsorship wise and funding like that. Because that's what they were doing when they were doing the amateur series. They had the crypto dudes fighting each other and different things like that. Social media influencers and for a while there they were doing a lot of those things as part of their show as well. So they do have a big in with that stuff. I just don't know how far they've really had to lean into anything other than what they've already been doing.
What is the goal for them? Like, what is the goal? Like, are they trying to be
I think at one point their goal was to be bigger than Glory. But I don't know. You know what I mean? I think they wanted to be, and he says it, the president says he wants it to be the number one striking organization in the world, stand-up striking organization in the world. So that's their goal. Some of the rules changes. I don't know if you're going to draw the best strikers in the world. How they got Tyrone, I think that's a money grab thing. That's a money thing. They got they have like Anthony Pettis, I think, or somebody, Benton Henderson fight. They had them. You know what I mean? So you get on the Vegas card. So you'll get like big names, and like you said, that way. So I think that they're drawing and getting that.
I think that's a great question you asked, Trav. And I mean, like how most businesses have a Gene. Now it's not like Robbie. Go
ahead, bro.
I don't know why I did that, but
you ain't the only one.
I think that's very much you brought up, Gene. Is that it's like a mission statement that is needed, like for a business or a company. It's like, what's the goal? And that's the truth of the matter. Like, what really is the goal? And if you have that in the forefront, then the moves that you make will continue to always move in that particular direction. But without one, you just kind of all over the place. And my fear is that something that was started as such a good concept and still has good value to it is going to fall by the wayside, like the WCL. And it's sad that we have to continue to use that as an example. But man, I liked the WCL back in the day. I really liked it. It was so exciting. It was the first of its kind. And now we got like Dewey Cooper, who's a good friend of mine, and I coach alongside. He's the president for the TCL, which is the exact same concept, but it's just boxing. So the Team Combat League, and it's the exact same thing. It's just in boxing. So whoever was the owner, they looked at that format, and it was like, they had something here, but they just didn't push it and promote it the right way. And
man, they really did.
So let me re-emerge this, and then do it just from a boxing standpoint. And they're on their third season already, and they're doing really well, quite honestly. So I'm afraid that it's going to die out like that because they don't really have. I don't know what the goal is. I mean, I hope that they do, but it doesn't appear that there is any particular one direction that they're going in to be able to achieve a certain result. It just seems like they're trying to go where the money and the viewership might be and just try to do whatever they have to do to draw in people.
Man, I know I took messed around and took over your segment, Chris, but
nah, big dog. Because listen, it's all part about it. Because I 100% agree with that.
like I'm wondering, like, should they have a tournament, or let's say 4 tournaments that are like feeder tournaments, like karate tournaments to Karate Combat? Like, how you
Yeah.
think
Well,
that would-
listen, they tried that. They tried it
did.
with the amateur series. They had the amateur series with the fighters with the 3 rounds, and they wore the gi tops, and they did that, and then they got the ability, if they won that, then they could go up into the big leagues. But then they don't really have like a set ranking system in their divisions. Like there's not like there's a lot of turnover in the fighting divisions. We see a lot of champs are in and out. Like last champ Rafael Lagaev is gone. Like I mean, it's just insane. Like there's a little turnover rate in their championships and in their rosters. So with that, it's kind of hard to put together brackets and things like that. Originally, they had tournaments. That got you there. It was a 4-man tournament or an 8-man tournament that boom, boom, boom. You didn't have fights in the same night, but you had fights once a month or something. And every month you had a fight that broke you down and got you to the tournament.
Yeah,
so if you look at the old ones, they did this and then they changed it and then they do this and then they change it. It's the inconsistencies. I think what Zeke said was they're following the trends and they're following where the dollars are moving right now. And they're living off that. Once they got the first pit series with the jiu-jitsu and they were like, oh, that drew viewership from that side of it. So we're going to get these guys in here. We're going to get some of these guys to come in, you know, doing triangles off the pit. Like, you know what I mean? So like we have some of these things. So I think that's kind of where it is now. And it's interesting and we'll see where they go.
Okay. What's up with the results, man?
Man, we
Zeke and I
had you know me, I can't say nobody's names. UFC vet Armin Tsakurin, he fought.
Oh, okay.
He fought. He apologizes for a lackluster fight. He won via unanimous decision. It literally was kind of a bait and wait, and a couple of scores here and there, a little huggy, a little clinchy, a little kind of a not a great fight. I did watch him, go back and watch his. Again, a lot of them were pretty good. I really focused on the 2 main events. UFC vet Mohammed how do you say Makav? I don't know how to say anybody's names.
It's all good.
Yeah, he fought beautiful front kicks to the body, beautiful body kicks. He won by TKO to the body. Distance and work, just it was ugly. And then in the heavyweight main event, Sam Alvey fights Tyrone Spong. Feel out round in the first round. Tyrone catches with some hard shots. Sam's, light shot and pepper, and they're both kind of feeling everything out. Second round, Sam gets poked in the eye. There's a little break. It was accidental, no big deal. Comes back out. He gets a little crisper. Hits him with a right, left. That left drops him on the ground. The ground and pound. Tyrone's down like open guard, like legs up and hands up. Sam just pink drops one down on him. Phew. Calls it a night. It's over. I was in absolute shock. I'm still honestly.
I would have never called. I would have lost the house on that.
Ever in a striking fight.
Exactly.
Pure striking. Kind of pure striking, but like in a predominant striking because they both stood up. I never in a million years would have guessed Sam Alvey would have knocked out Tyrone Spong. Never in a minute. I am still like, holy moly. I got to train with Tyrone a couple of different times when they were over at the Black Zillions. And I lived in Florida and I got to go over there, and just sheer technique. He was just so technically good and impressive. And then you add his power and his ferociousness on top of that. Hats off to Sam. He is on one of the biggest fight career turnarounds I've ever seen in my life, going with the longest winless streak in the UFC, getting cut from the UFC, coming over and going on a 8 or 9 fight win streak in Karate Combat, and winning the light heavyweight and the heavyweight championship, beating Ross, beating Tyrone. Listen, these are big wins. This is a boost on him. So Sam, congratulations to whatever you've been doing, big dog. But still, I am so shocked by that.
You know,
Go
the
ahead,
thing
thought.
is that the truth of the matter is that, and I do like what I'm seeing as far as some of these people when they're getting cut from the UFC or their different organizations migrating to other places, because sometimes you just have to find your niche. You have to find your way. You have to find where you belong. Like, you know, MMA was what was popularized and what people got into because it paid and it was the most popular thing. But that might not really be where you belong, you know. And at some point when you get to a certain level, you start realizing that, and by then there's more opportunities, more avenues that you are able to pursue, and it looks like that he's really found where he's supposed to be, and he has a really irky jerky weird kind of style, and that's difficult to deal with the person who is very technical. We're all fighters, you know, in multiple different fighting styles and systems, sport karate being our commonality, and you spar or fought somebody who was not really better than you, but they just had like a weird timing on their kick or their punch or their movement. You like, I just can't catch the rhythm with this guy, you know, and they'll catch you sometimes. And I mean, maybe that did make them better than you, but in your mind, you're like, I feel like from a skill and technical standpoint, I'm better, you know, or I'm more refined than this person. But it's just sometimes when you have a certain type of weird way of throwing something or delivering, and Sam, he has a unique way of movement, you know, that can make it difficult for somebody who's as technical. Because when you're that technical as Tyrone, you typically sprawl with other people who are equally as technical as you. So you expect things to come at a certain type of speed or a certain type of movement that can be thrown off by fighting somebody who has a unique or broken rhythm.
Yes, broken rhythm fighters beat fighters who have rhythm a lot of the times because they break the rhythm that they're used to doing, and it shoots off on a, like you said, odd angle. It's a weird timing. Like, who throws a punch like that? That guy does, and he throws it really hard. Now you know why he throws it like that. I mean, it is what it is.
Okay, Chris, you also said you got some results for UFC.
Well, y'all didn't watch the UFC? Y'all didn't watch Bo Nickel?
No, you know what my issue with UFC is, man? UFC has so many cards now, man. They have so many cards.
Absolutely. Like, this was UFC on ESPN 67, UFC Denver or whatever it was, like Des Moines. They were in Des Moines. You're right. They're on 317 plus all the UFC on. They had all the UFC on Foxes, all the UFC on Spikes, the fight nights, all the
UFC in Vegas.
It's so much, and now you got the Dana White Contender Series, and you got, like, I think it's saturated. I just think it's oversaturated right now, and
they still got the tough. They still got the tough enough supposed to be coming out a couple of weeks. They still got the Ultimate Fighter.
They brought that back.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, fam, I used to love the Ultimate Fighter.
I did too. I used to love
it. And none of us can lie about that. We love that.
I used to love it.
No, I was really into like the first
Stephen Bonner fight was wild in those days. Like,
I love the first. I would say the first 7 or 8 seasons. I watched all of them. The first 7 or 8. I think I got them on DVD. I went and bought them. I liked them so much. I got them on DVD. Yeah.
I don't think I watched that many seasons.
I saw a lot. Because I was really into it back then, man. And after you said like the Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner fight, man, I was hooked. I was going to video stores were still open at that time. I was going and buying the old fights and getting caught up in everything, man. And
that stuff saved them though.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing, man, and this is why I kind of fell in love with it back then, was because it seemed like back then, like the UFC would have 4 fights a year. And a lot of those cards would have the same fighters. So you got attracted to those same guys that you saw fighting. You know, you've seen them fighting in January. They might show back up again in September or whatever, you know. So you got used to seeing the same guys over and over and over. Now it's so many, you know, UFC events. Like, I can't get, you know, stuck on one particular guy that's my favorite fighter that I want to see this guy fight. You know, they might fight this year. You might not see him again until next year at some point because injuries and things like that happen, you know. So
you have to think about it. You know, there's a lot more organizations and leagues now. So what's happening is this: there's constant talent that's coming, especially when you have these wrestlers, man, that are studs, and they're graduating and, you know, from these colleges, and they're, you know, just taking up martial arts, and, you know, they're coming from the Olympics and things like that. And it's like, if we don't start expanding and having more shows, we're going to lose these people into these other organizations. So this is another reason why they have such a quick turnaround and way to cut you, because we need to streamline and have an influx of people and ability for them to be able to come in, so we can catch and net the studs. Now we're going to get some duds. We're going to get some people that suck or whatever else, and they'll filter themselves out really early on in a natural filtration system, and we'll be able to just get rid of them easy. But we need people constantly coming in so we can catch those diamonds in the roughs, those studs, those next big things before somebody else catches them. Because if they do, then we're going to miss out, and then we're going to lose out on that market that we could potentially capitalize off of. Imagine if Conor McGregor didn't go to the UFC because they didn't have any more room on the roster, whatever the case was, and he went to one championship or anywhere else. Just imagine what would have happened, or what that would have done, or how competitive it would have been for UFC. So they have to have 4 cards, I think, in their mind, so they can continue to be able to work through all of the new crop of people that are coming in, so that way they can make sure they don't miss out on their next superstar.
But is it more than it was back in the day? Because back in 2006, 7, and 8, man, you had UFC, you had Pride, you had IFL, you had WEC, you had Elite XC, you had Strike Force, you had Bodog. There was a
they all got absorbed.
Bodog.
Yo, Bodog was fire out there.
Bodog was fire, man.
Yeah. Like I said, man, I was a fiend. I was always watching. I was watching every single one. I was going to the local events here in Michigan, watching the fights, man. And now it just seems like you got the UFC, and then you got one, but like what else? Like what else? I mean,
can't leave room for somebody else to creep in. Let's monopolize every weekend.
Yeah, that's exactly. You're right. You're right. But at the same time, like, do you water down your product now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the accessibility, and this probably hurts to say, training fighters myself, who I would like to get into the UFC someday. I think that it's far more accessible than it used to be, and we all know that exclusivity is king. When things are more accessible, then it definitely dilutes and waters down the product, because you're letting more people in who don't necessarily deserve to be there. And if you watch these fights, man, a lot of these fights are bad. They just suck. Like if you, it's akin to the ones that you locally see in your city or state where you watch these, which is why I don't watch a lot of these, local ones, because the fighters, if it's not really my people or people that I know that I'm going to support, I won't oftentimes go just buy a ticket to be able to go watch, because a lot of times the fighters are really, and it's understandable, I'm not judging or criticizing them, like I'm this stud, but they're unpolished and they're working their way up. And in all fairness, most of the people that are in the crowd are there because they're there to watch somebody specifically or in particular. But when you feel like you're watching like the UFC, you don't necessarily have to really know the people that's on the card or all of them, but you'll watch your card, even people that you don't know, because you assume that these are going to be quality fights and fighters. And we're not getting that anymore. We're getting people that look like that they just were bumped up from the local, shows, and just to fill a spot, and they give them a contract real quick because they jumped in because somebody got injured, and then all of a sudden the fights look the way they do.
And it's funny you say that, man, because I was thinking that's exactly what happened. And you know better than me, man, being out in Vegas and around a lot of fighters. So, okay. What's up with the results, Chris?
Man, you got two big fights. I mean, the bigger name fights. We got Rener de Ridder from 1-2 division champ. And again, this is the popularity of the UFC. People are like, yo, this dude's a bum. Like, nobody knows this dude. Bo Nichols got exposed. Like, he's not that good. That's a 2 division world champion from one of the very highest level organizations outside, especially outside of the America, because one is. I mean, you got the UFC here in America as the biggest and the best organization, and then you have one which they've spread themselves a little thin with all of their different things, but they're the biggest international organization for fights, being based out of Asia, and their numbers, and so we're seeing some of their guys come over and do the swaps, and we've seen that Demetrius went over there. We got Ben Askren, that didn't work out for the UFC. Worked out much better for one in that one. And de Ridder is one of these guys that came over here and kind of just outworked them. lock down his wrestling. Bo wasn't able to utilize what he's great at, because Bo Nichols is an absolute stud when it comes to wrestling, top positions, controls. Because of that, you see these big wrestlers get really, really strong. They got real hard shots in boxing. They get a little wild in that because they're comfortable with not being taken down, and they're comfortable getting the takedown when they're not getting the better of the shots. De Ridder just kind of to outlasted it, nullified, put him against the cage, beat him up, hit him in the body, ended up finishing it with the knee to the chest, and slows this Bo Nichols train down. I think Bo is a little light for that one. I know he comes in and said what, fight week or something, he was like 226, and he cuts down to middleweight at 185. But looking at his frame versus De Ridder in that fight, he looked like maybe he should not go up so high heavy when he's not in camp, and maybe go down to 170 or figure out what he's going to do, because he's a small middleweight. Size, like frame wise, not size wise. Obviously, he weighs enough, but like frame wise, I think he's a small frame middleweight.
Did you say that in fight week he came in at 226?
That's what they said, man. He was at 226, and or maybe like a couple
that's a lot of weight.
I was reading that. I was like, bro, you know, 40, listen, we know what weight cutting is. Like, I'm not trying to cut 10 pounds fight week. I'm trying to like
35 pounds.
That's crazy.
Listen, waterweight wrestlers are crazy, bro. You know how it goes with the sauna suits. They sit in the wintergreen Epsom salt baths, and they get in little steam suits, and
damn that.
Put me back in.
What is that? 40? Let's say 30. I was wrong. That's 40. What, 41 pounds?
40 pounds? 40, yeah.
40
how do you even have the energy 40? To fight? How do you have the energy to fight losing that much weight?
No, I don't know.
Zeke.
I'm not seeing it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you talk about cutting weight, here's the thing. You are literally, not figuratively, not metaphorically, a different person at a different weight. You're a different person. You're a different human being.
Oh, 100%.
If you were 225, everything that you've been doing to train, all of your wrestling, all of your striking, all of your movement, everything you've been doing as a 225er or 220er or whatever, 220. When you go all the way down to 185, not only are you lighter, but you're moving, you're feeling different. Things are different. And again, as we know from an energy standpoint, your energy level is going to be different because you're only cutting to get to that point for that particular day, and then you're trying to unnaturally be able to get your weight back up to a certain level. So the thing is that the way that you feel, you don't really know how you feel or fight at 185 because you don't feel or fight at 185. Even the day of the fight, you don't fight at 185. When you're sparring and when you're fighting and training, you're training at whatever weight. So if you cut that much weight, the reason it normally works is because you're gradually cutting weight leading up to the fight. So then you drop 5 pounds, so you drop 10 pounds, and then as you're running, you're moving, you're sparring, you're grappling, you are comfortable with that version of you as a human because you know how you're moving at that weight. When you wait to the last minute and you do your whole camp at a certain weight, and then you try to drop 40 pounds, crazy. Over the span of 4 days or 5 days, you don't really know how you're going to feel or perform because you haven't been at that weight long enough to know how you're going to feel or perform.
Plus, you're depleting your body, you're depleting your muscles, you're dehydrating your brain. And when you rehydrate, that's the last thing that comes back. Rehydrating your brain tissue is the last thing that comes back. That's why you see a lot of dudes getting pop flash knockouts like you wouldn't see. I guarantee you that plays a role, not just why he lost, but I guarantee you that plays a role in Alex Pereira getting knocked out by Izzy on that fight. That was one of the worst weight cuts I've ever seen. Like, you watch that dude and he looked like he had a terrible weight cut. He looked like a zombie walking around. Like, so, that causes damage. Like, it's, so I don't know. They said, I just confirmed it was 37. He lost 37 pounds fight week.
Damn.
Wow.
Wow. That's killing your kidneys too, man. Like that's crazy.
Listen, that's bad for your testosterone levels. That's bad for everything. Your hormones, it disrupts that kind of up and down weight drop. It destroys everything. Why do you think all those dudes were on TRT? Their testosterone had been depleted because of the constant ups and downs and pushes and pulls. You stop producing these things. So that's why all those dudes were like super, Vitor. I mean, he's a TRT Vitor, and then non-TRT Vitor. Like, I mean,
he like a different person.
What generally causes those kind of things for that. I mean, you'll get checked later on in life. I know I have. You know what I mean? The levels are just different, and you gotta address these things. And I mean, they used to allow it. Now they don't allow it anymore. So you're at where you're at. You got to figure out ways to get back into that. Okay. And then you have the last, the main event was Corey Sandhagen and Deiveson Figueiredo. That ended in a knee, looks like a knee blowout. And
I didn't see that either.
You didn't even. That was that. Listen, and he's up there in age. I don't know if we're gonna see him back, or if we do, how much we're gonna see. As somebody who's gone through the knees, it changes you. It 100% changes you. I came back quick. I came back strong and explosive, but I came back hesitant. Like it just, it's few and far between where you get the Adrian Peterson who jumps back in that year. Like I jumped back in the year. I did the same thing. I came back. I fought an MMA fight 9 months out of surgery and opened with a butterfly twist kick. Moving in and doing around and training and going against the cage.
What made you think to do that?
Wall work. What?
Why would that be your first thing that you did? What were you thinking?
I'm not on there, bro. I'm not on there. I want to see if I can hit him. And honestly, I felt comfortable enough in my jiu-jitsu and my wrestling that if he did something and I ended up on the ground, I felt like it was early enough in the fight, I would be okay.
Yeah.
So it usually goes against my typical opening, which is feint off hard side kick and then pump the side kick again when they fold in, try to throw an axe kick and then see what kind of point they make. But yeah, why not?
There you go.
I threw a flip scorpion kick in the same fight. And I actually hit him with
it. He was just trying to test out that. He was trying to make sure he got his money's worth for that knee. He's like, let me do everything right now.
Right.
Is this thing
you
really
caught me in a tight guillotine. No, forget that. No. And then you reach long 1-2 and then lean over. No, I gotta expose something.
I paid a lot of money for this knee. I need to put this thing to the test today, right now. Everything.
That was cool though.
Is that it, Chris?
Yeah, that's really, there's a bunch of fights on there. But as far as like you're talking about bigger names, people who you're gonna see on a regular basis, that's it. The Bo Nichols is the latest big hype train that's coming through. Undefeated fighter, a beast on the wrestling mats. He talks a good game, like, so he has that aura about him. And then to see that kind of derailed a little bit or detracted, unfortunately the casuals don't know how good his opponent was. Okay. And that's and again, this is kind of where we're at with when you have so many different fighters and so many different things. You're like, oh, it's just another guy. I know this guy, but I don't really know who this guy was. It was like, honestly, and I hate to say it, this is not the same. It's nowhere near the same, but it's almost the same experience as when we knew who Chris Lieben was. Everybody watched Tough. Everybody knew how tough Chris Lieben was. Hardcore fans knew who Anderson Silva was. These dudes didn't know who Anderson was. We were like, who is this skinny little dude? We seen this dude. He's a banger. He's real tough. He's gonna get out there. And I'm like, man, I bet you $50 this skinny little dude bings him up real bad. Okay, yeah, I bet you.
I wasn't a Lieben fan. I wasn't a Lieben fan.
Oh, they love Chris Lieben. They love Chris Lieben with the break.
I know they did. Yeah, I know they did. Yeah.
All they do was tough.
It worked because they brought him in your household, literally almost. You know, he was brought into your household. You had to go watch Anderson fights.
Right. Yeah, you had to go watch Pride. You had to go watch Carlos Newton fights. You had to go watch them. Unfortunately, you don't watch a real Chona fight, but that's a fire. That's a fire fight. The flying scissor to that heel, that joke was nasty. Yeah. But like I said, you had to watch Pride. You had to know who some of these dudes were. Like you had to know the camps. Like you had to know shoot box. Like these are things like when you watched it, you knew, but when you didn't know, you were casual. But to the point I think we were talking about with the oversaturation with the UFC is what made the UFC great was there were stories. It's what Trav talks about all the time. What's the story? Why do we watch it? Why do we get involved? We knew about the rich kid coming from Hilo, Hawaii, coming up, jumping up a weight class, having to go against GSP. We knew about, you know, how these dudes work. We knew who Matt Hughes was. We knew, like you said, there were a few guys, and they fought a lot more. We got into the insights between the Chuck and the Tito's. Like we knew what was going on. We had a vested interest in it. Now with so many fights going all the time, it's hard. I'm still involved, you know, training and I still train, and I still get to go to the old gyms. Like when I go home to Florida, and I see a lot of these guys in the UFC now. When I go home and I get to train, and there are a lot of guys who are on the amateur cards with me when I was on amateur cards back in my days, and now they're in the UFC. They're big. I'm the whole Florida crew: Alex Spartan Nicholson, Philip Rowe, Mike Perry. That whole little group. We all fought on the same amateur cards together, all growing up. So like, and now watching these dudes, so like I have a little vested interest, so I watch these guys a lot. But other than that, like you said, Zeke, we don't have an interest. We don't know somebody. We don't have that, or they're not a huge draw. It's not really a big reason to watch anymore.
That's the one thing boxing did well, is that they had the 24/7s. Everybody watched 24/7s. You watched it no matter what. They did it so well that by the time the fight came, you know, then they had the all accesses eventually. And UFC obviously has a countdown. They try to do things, but it never was done as much and as well as it was for boxing. And most of the times the fights were very lackluster. You know, the boxing fights did not live up to what you saw, what you anticipated or had hoped for. But the 24/7s just told such amazing stories and brought these people in your homes. It brought you in their home. They showed natural moments of them sitting out with their family eating, and at birthday parties, and them leaving, you know, their wife for several weeks to travel. And I mean, it did a really good job. And those are things like, again, I hate to bring it back up, like the WCL lacked, which is why it fell by the wayside. And, you know, and Karate Combat, you know, it lacks, which is the reason why it is not getting the kind of notoriety and attention. And just because UFC is such a big conglomerate, they feel like we don't have to do it, because those three initials right there speaks for itself, and people are going to tune in, you know, and they just got to hope that there's no juggernaut that just pops up that has the backing that, you know, that's necessary to be able to do all of the intangible things that they're not doing that can rival them. Because for a while, which is why they absorbed Pride, Pride did those things. And they had the ring walks and the entrances where people came from down low on elevators up through the stage, and the pyrotechnics and all of the stuff that you want to watch, the pageantry before they even got in there. And then the fights delivered on everything that it
always the 10-minute first round, the ring announce, the screaming lady, like the commentating, like it was Pride is the best.
Red shoes. Yeah, red shoes. Like everything, man. Everything about Pride, man. And I didn't even appreciate Pride. I didn't even appreciate Pride when it was really like, once UFC really blew up, I didn't appreciate it. Ski had to bring me and like, hey man, check out Pride too. Like, don't diss Pride. And I started watching Pride and seeing Vanderlei and seeing Fedor and Crow Cop and Rampage and Dan Henderson.
Every DVD.
Every one of them. I still have them all. Wow. The Gracie Killer, like Kazushi Sakuraba. Like that's why I found that when I said earlier I had a catch wrestler, dude. Like that's the reason Kazushi Sakuraba. Like that's the reason I found a catch wrestler. I met Josh Barnett as well. I like Josh Barnett, but like not Sakuraba was that guy. Like for me, like But no, the UFC, I think they absorb everybody. They absorbed Elite XC, they absorbed Strikeforce, they took their whole heavyweight division, because even at the time, Strikeforce is heavy. When they did their heavyweight tournament, Cormier, Josh Barnett, Bigfoot Silva, like their whole that Fedor was in, like their whole heavyweight division was stacked and better. Now UFC had every other division. But WEC had 170 down to 135.
That's right.
Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo, Carlos Condit at 170 was a monster. Brian Stan, like these, like all them dudes was like there, and they got absorbed up into those divisions. UFC was like, nah, we'll do that. Then you had Cyborg and Gina Carano and the women, and Dana, I'm not going to do that. Ronda came out. You're like, well, we are going to do that.
Don't use her.
We're going to move in. So they whatever seems to get popular, they're doing it. They added the 25. Then they don't like the 25. I don't know if they didn't like the 25 or they didn't like the 25 but they moved a little bit away from that some. You know, it's just weird.
UFC is like Galactus, like in the Marvel comics, is the eater of worlds, you know. And the reason they do this, and it's very sad to say, is because they don't have no intention on improving. So if there's a product that sits next to me alongside me that's better, and it's like, look, I'm not trying to do all that. I'm not trying to do all these pyrotechnics and all of this stuff and ring announcer. I'll just buy it and close it down. That way, there's nobody for you to look at and be able to compare that they're better. Why are they doing that? Why don't you guys do that? Oh, you guys like what they're doing? We'll just buy them and close them down. Don't worry about it. Not this is what you have to watch. I have no intent on doing anything beyond what it is that we're doing right now. And this is what we're going to do. And we're not going to give you anybody else to compare us to. So if we deem them a legitimate threat, rather than us be better, we just rather buy them and shut them down and then just continue down the path and the course we're on.
Gene, does that sound familiar? The parent company owns another company that does the same thing.
You talking about WWE? Because
I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying, it's the formula. If the recipe works, the recipe works.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, that's it. That's the great analogy. Galactus, the devourer of worlds, like I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna get a little stronger because of the names. That's how I filter in and out the people. Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Let's move on to the professor's perspective. You got the move of the week, Isaiah. All right, let me get this ready.
Hey.
Now,
I didn't know if you wanted me to play your volume or.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm talking up as it is.
Okay.
So yesterday when we watched the UFC, to piggyback off what we were already talking about, I believe it was the Mason Jones and the Jeremy Stevens fight. I think it was.
Yes.
Where he tried to go for a Kimura from the north-south position and just could not finish it. And for the life of me, I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. And I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. And obviously, this video is older. I didn't make it just for this, but it was a great time to be able to bring it up and discuss it that just happened. This is a move that I really love. I love the north-south position rather than trying to stay in side control and fight off somebody from trying to re-guard or get me a half guard or get an underhook and pop up. I'll oftentimes move to the north-south position and work and attack from there and the Kimura from there. And what I noticed is that people abandon a lot of these moves too soon just because they're not taking the time, like me and Chris were talking about earlier, or with training in gi. They're not taking the time to be able to make sure that they're technically sound. And they abandon them. If you are a seasoned practitioner, you should know when you have something and when you don't. Sometimes you have to fight for something a little bit more, but sometimes you just don't have anything, and maybe I'm going to use the threaten or the sweep or whatever, or to get back to my feet. But he should have been able to finish that. So we want to talk a little bit about what ended up transpiring. First of all, I believe Jeremy was grabbing his shorts, and that's how he was able to fight it off, which is a very good defense for this, is grabbing the shorts, because you can't in MMA grab your own shorts. You just can't grab your opponent's shorts. All right, so when he grabbed his shorts, he struggled by trying to pull and get his arm free. Now, the reason this happened to begin with is right here. If you can look and see, that's one of my students, Pancho, I bring his elbow up to my chest. So the minute I get in that position, before you can fight and grab your own wrist, before you can grab your shorts, the first thing I do is I use that arm. See, I pulled it up where the elbow's to the chest. It's separated from his body to where he can't grab his shorts and he can't join his other arm to the other arm. And that's what causes the fight. So when we teach, I try to teach prevention first. How can we not be in this position? So, because what happens is the students raise their hand all the time. And they say, well, what happens if he does? What happens if Great. Thank you for asking that question. Let's talk about how to make sure this doesn't happen to begin with. And this happens because people are so focused on trying to crank the arm that they don't try to separate the arm from the rest of the body, which gives them an opportunity to grab on their shorts or work on being able to grab their other arm and get that arm fight. So the first thing that I do is when I slide into that position and I put that pressure there with my legs and I have that wrist and I put the other arm in my left arm right there, I pull it up to my chest. And look how the elbow is separated from the body, so he can't grab the shorts and he can't even grab his other arm to be able to fight. All right, so that's the preventionary thing that we need to look at doing anytime we're in this position. if something happens, all right, that's how we prevent it from happening. But if something happens where the guy grabs his shorts, you can cut the video now. If something happens where he grabs the shorts, because that part's not demonstrated in the video, or joins his hands together, it's something really simple that I can do, and they just call it earthquake. Which all you have to do is you just have to point towards the ground and just shake like little small tremors, and the hand eventually starts to actually free up from the shorts and from the wrist, and you're able to turn it into like a chicken wing if you're not able to finish the Kimura and still get the finish, right? So these are the things that you learn, people, when you put the gi on. I'm not saying that nobody can do without the gi. I'm not saying that. But because with the gi on, you can grab your pants. There's actually so much more clothing that you can grab, your lapel, things like that, your sleeve. You have to learn these different little tricks, and these pay dividends in situations like that. In that fight, Jeremy was able to somehow work his way back to his feet. I think he threw a couple big punches, which he could have put my man out. And if he did, and he would have looked up and said, dude, I was in this perfect finishing position. And just because I didn't utilize these details, all right, or I didn't know what to do next, that caused me to abandon the position altogether. And then, he ended up coming back and winning the fight. That's not what happened, but it really could have happened.
It could have.
No, go ahead.
Right. My thing with what you're talking about is what I teach a lot, because I'm not very big. I'm not, I'm 165 pounds, and I used to be 135 for the longest time. So like I don't have the strength to yank up, and I don't want to have the strength to yank up everybody's arm. I glue me to you, and now I use my back, and it's just, and it's such an easier position. You have, and you do. He was just lifting and cranking and lifting and cranking. It was like, buddy, just take your time. If worst case scenario, pop to where the finger's gonna go, pop out, lift up, turn over. Like there's like little nuanced things to have control. And I think and I taught this the other day when I was teaching class. It was like, I think sometimes you guys get caught up in the movements and the move versus the positioning and the concept. What do I have? Let me, I learned this through catch wrestling, and my catch wrestling coach versus jiu-jitsu. We learned jiu-jitsu is position before submission. In catch wrestling, we always learned it was position, acquire the limb, and then work for the submission. Because once you have attached yourself and acquired a limb first, whether it be the neck, the arm, or the leg, now I can kind of figure out based upon your movement what I can do, versus going side control. What do I remember from side control? I was like, all right, side control, grab their arm. All right, their arm goes down. Oop, Kimura. The arm goes up. Oop, there's a key lock. Arm straightens out. There's a straight arm lock. There's a wrist lock. There's all the X, Y's, and Z's and whatever you prefer and what you remember from there. So with that, like, I think there's a lot of people who are just reaching for the move. The move doesn't work. I let it go, and I gotta push the restart button because the thing that I did didn't work. You know what I mean? And without that technical training, and without having to be in that position, and having your coaches and people explaining these things to you, and like my style is not teaching movements. My style is teaching a concept and a position. All right, this is side control. This is on the top. This is your goal here. This is on the bottom. This is your goal here. Go roll for 2 minutes. Come back, and then we'll have a conversation. And what did you see? What did you feel? Good. Now there are ways to prevent these kind of things. And now moves are based upon the feelings. You know what I mean? So and because I think the guys are, and in MMA you got so many things you got to worry about. So I think sometimes some things fall through the cracks.
And because of the things you articulated and what we saw yesterday, I've gravitated towards teaching principles. Because if you understand the principle, then I think that's going to open up everything else that we work on and we discuss after that. What makes this move work, and what could be the things that would happen that would make this move difficult or not work at all. And if we can understand those principles, then oftentimes we'll stay on the side of prevention, never get to these situations. And then if we do, we don't panic and start trying to use muscle and strength to get out of it. We understand, okay, we talked about this and I missed this step and now we're here. So let me go ahead and move on to the next principle to be able to go ahead and get this finished from where I currently am.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I struggle with in class, man, is trying not to use my strength, because I am strong, but I don't realize how strong. I'm thinking I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not realizing that I'm using my strength. So it's like I said, it's gonna take a minute for me to get out of that, as far as not using my strength while I'm working with some of my classmates, man.
As you age, then you understand that it's like, look, like there's gonna be people bigger than me, it's gonna be people stronger than me. I need to find the most economical way, strength and energy wise, to be able to achieve the same result. And when you start rolling with those higher ranked people, those that are faster, that are younger, that are stronger, you're gonna have to really lean on your technique. So it's better that you start doing it now versus later.
Yeah. All right.
You
So
work on your breathing.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. All right. You guys got any closing remarks or anything?
That's
No,
it.
man,
Great show,
I think today was a great show. I really appreciate you guys kicking it with us, and you know, we're gonna keep it going.
Keep it rolling, baby.
Yeah. I mean, Angel missed out on a good show this week. I don't know. He said he was busy with doing
He's
some
gonna be
family
mad.
stuff.
He's gonna be mad.
Yeah,
He's gonna be putting it all in the group.
Yeah.
Get ready. Get ready for the messages.
All right, everyone. Stay safe, stay strong. We'll holler at you next week. And we are out. Try to get our music together.
You man.